I don't know, Ben.
In this picture.
Okay, I'm on a meeting. I think so.
Why are you laying there like a dead slug?
Hi, Susan Little.
Hi, how are
Hi.
you?
How are
What
you?
doing? I'm good. I'm just adjusting to the new normal here in New York City, which
You
is
know
a
what?
little
We
odd.
may have to ask about that because that's very different than here.
Yes. I almost forgot to take my mask off when I called. So it's bizarre. Yes, it's bizarre. The daily commute is completely empty. The subways are empty. Everything is empty. We have to come into our office in shifts.
So I have a neighbor and he is a physician and he volunteered his time and he went to Queens for a couple of weeks to help.
Oh gosh,
And
that's amazing.
It was tough. He told me it was tough.
Oh, it got really real here. It's like the zombie apocalypse. I'm not gonna lie. Being in the streets of New York City was it was mind blowing. It was like post-apocalyptic. Really, it was bizarre.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. How are you?
Hello.
Good to
Hey,
see you.
Kevin.
Good to see you. Good to be seen.
Kevin.
You look
Hi.
very nice, Kevin, in the bright color. Looks very good.
I had too much wine last night. I needed something.
Oh, you have to look
You're not
perky
supposed to
here.
admit that. Me too.
It's late.
That's okay, Celia.
I had White Claw last night.
Ooh, crazy.
After I took the second tick off my daughter in 2 days, I had a White Claw.
Oh my goodness, that is scary. Yeah.
Didn't you have an episode with Luke and it's
I did. Yeah. You know, my husband is like so annoying. He just like picked it off and was like, eh, and acted like I was crazy, but I was freaking out. Of course. I mean, it was freaky.
Didn't you put Luke in the hospital or something?
No.
Oh, that
Not
wasn't
because
the
of the tick.
Oh, okay. Okay, never mind. then.
No, my husband just like dug it out and I was freaking out. I wanted to take him. He was like, "Are you out of your mind, girl? No." I'm like, "Put it in a plastic bag," and he was like, "You're ridiculous." He wasn't having that. It all worked out, but.
Okay, good.
So, you guys, I thought I was coming into a meeting that had already started, but you guys haven't started yet.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, Susan, are you okay listening to about KW's profit sharing for about 10 minutes?
Yes, that's okay. I'd be
Good.
interested to hear. My girlfriend is, because I moved across the river to Jersey City because it's a pretty hot market right now. And Keller Williams doesn't have a huge presence in my market, which is in Brooklyn, but in Jersey City they do. So my girlfriend actually is a Compass agent, but she works for Keller Williams across the river. So I keep trying to find the time to get my license over there. And so I've been thinking about it, but yeah, she's doing quite well. She likes the company.
Love it.
2 different states. You're licensed only in New York, not in Jersey.
Yeah, I'm only licensed in New York, and it's not difficult. It's actually quite different. I mean, I don't know if you'll know, but real estate in New York City is unlike real estate anywhere else in the world. So if you're doing real estate in Ohio, California, Iowa, Hawaii, it's probably going to be almost exactly the same. but New York City is totally different. So when I bought my house in Jersey City, I was like, what is going on? I had no idea what was going on because it's that different. So I went and I took the classes just to learn the parts that were so foreign to me, because they do everything in the exact reverse as we do things in New York City. I just have to take the test, and it's one of those things where you never get around to it, but I'm going to do it. It's on my list of many things.
Love it.
Get it.
So, well, let's go ahead and get started. I know some more people are joining, but we would love to respect everyone's time that decided to join us today, and we thank them for that. And we are going to kick off today with the one and only Brian Kemp from our Worthington office. Brian is the OP, so he's the Sue of the Worthington office, and his office has nearly 300 agents, so I'm sure he has his hands full on a daily basis. And all the while, he runs a very large and successful sales team. And Brian has been with the company for quite some time, and he's going to talk to us just for maybe 10 minutes or so about profit sharing, because he works profit sharing at an incredibly high level. You are probably one of the top in all of the Ohio Valley region. Would that be right?
Number one. Yeah.
Number one, to be exact. Number one.
Not that we're competitive.
So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Brian he can share with you what profit sharing is all about and how it's kind of changed his life.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll give you all a little bit of background on myself. I've been a licensed realtor for 31 years, originally from Cincinnati, and I went to Ohio State and worked my last year in college part-time for a realtor who convinced me that I needed to get my real estate license, and the rest is history. I've only been with I started at Coldwell Banker. I was there for about 4 months and followed my manager to Joanne Figge's brand new brokerage, which was a Prudential franchise in Worthington. I was with Joanne. She was my broker, mentor, mom for 13 years. And then several of us got together and opened the very first Keller Williams office in Ohio. After 2 years of going back and forth and having lots of meetings with Linda McKissick. And that was in 2002. So we'll have been open for 18 years in August the 1st, we'll have been open for 18 years in Ohio, or in Worthington. So when the 7 of us decided to get together and open a franchise that didn't exist anywhere in Ohio, there were a lot of things about Keller Williams that really appealed to us. The education and the training obviously was huge. It was things that several of us weren't getting at our existing brokerages. We loved the concept of the ALC and the culture of Keller Williams. One of the big pillars that none of us really paid any attention to was the profit sharing model. And so if I could ask if you could either raise your hand, how many of you have sponsored someone or someone has named you as a sponsor? So you all does everybody have a downline? Not everybody. Half of you? Okay. So when you join Keller Williams, one of the questions that you're asked is, who's the person singularly most responsible for you being here? I'll just go over a couple of points on here, but it's something that a couple of the myths. Some people say, well, no wonder you're number one, you got here early. Well, there are people. One of the number 4 profit share earner in our region has only been with the company for less than 5 years. So I've been here almost 18 years. She's been here almost 5. So she does a better job of growing her downline than I do. And one of the other myths is that you have to be a great recruiter, and that's not your job. Your job is to tee someone up and provide a warm lead and prepare them that Chris, your wonderful team leader, is going to be calling them, and that they owe it to themselves to take Chris's phone call. because Chris's job is recruiting. Your job is not recruiting. Your job is to refer. So if you have a great co-op with someone, you know, follow it back up. We all have wonderful follow-up programs for our clients after closing to check in with them and make sure everything's going okay and to get more business from them. But if I've had a really good co-op with Chris, you know, I want to make sure that I'm in business with her, whether she comes to my market center or she lives in Grove City and wants to come to your market center. It doesn't really matter. The most important thing is being in business with great people. And I'm someone who, you know, if I'm doing something or I'm a part of something that I'm very passionate about, I want other people to be with me. And I've always felt that way since I came to Keller Williams. I was like, there are so many people that could benefit from everything that we have to offer here. And so that, you know, that's why my profit share tree is what it is. I've been purposeful about it, just like I have my real estate business. So, you know, and it's an equal opportunity with unequal outcome. I will tell you, of the 7 of us that started the market center here in Worthington, 3 of us get profit share at a very high level and 4 don't. 4 just have not, you know, they've had the same opportunities, they're in the same building, same team leader, you know, and they've just not, you know, it's not been important to them and it's not been purposeful for them. So, and profit share in general is received across KWRI as about 30, you can correct me on this, Chris, I think it's 30 to 35%, where you're, you know, where we are in our market center, just because of growth committee and a couple of other people, we're at about 38% of the agents in our market center receive profit share. So, you know, it's a gift that Gary Keller has given us. And so, and it doesn't cost you anything, and take advantage of it. So a couple of things, why profit share? Keller Williams believes that our associates should be treated like stakeholders. I'll have people all the time that say, well, I wish I own part of Keller Williams Capital Partners. I'm like, well, you do. If you participate in profit share, you've helped the company grow and you're getting free money, and you didn't have to invest the money or take the risk that the 7 of us had to take in the beginning. You didn't have to sign leases and get copiers and make sure that all your agents are happy and all that good stuff. So you are a stakeholder in your business and in your office. Also, Keller Williams believes that together everyone achieves more. And so they split every market center's profit between the owners who took the risks and the associates who helped grow the market center. Does everybody know how profit share is calculated? Chris, I'm going to rely on you. You can just give me a simple yes or no. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I've got a real easy calculation. No.
I think we can go over the real easy calculation. Okay. I usually go over it with everyone in the beginning, but I'm also going over about 100 things with them. Sure. So I'm sure not everyone knows. Yeah.
So how profit share is calculated. And the other big myth is that I think a lot of people think that, if I've sponsored Kevin, that when I'm receiving profit share from Kevin, that it's coming out of Kevin's pocket. And that is also a myth. It comes from the money that Kevin is paying towards his cap in a given month. So it's actually the market center's profit. It doesn't come out of the agent who's named you as their sponsor. It doesn't come out of their pocket. It comes out of the company's pocket. But how profit share, we at Keller Williams, and we're a very open book company, so you can review your financials at the beginning of the next month after transmittal with Chris. But you'll see we have commissions that come in, and then we pay our agents on their splits, and then what's left over is company dollar. And then your market center has expenses every month that they have to pay, and then what is left over is profit. And when you get to a certain level of profit, 52 cents of every dollar of profit that's left over in a given month goes back to the investors who, again, took the risk and opened the market center, and then 48 cents of every dollar of profit is shared with the agents who helped grow the company. So passive income, profit share is considered passive income, and passive income is money that you receive without doing anything actively to earn it. And Bless you. So does anybody know at 5% interest, which I'm not sure you're going to find a bank right now to pay you 5% interest. Do you know how much money would you have to have in the bank at 5% interest to make $75,000 a year? Do I see calculators going?
I would
Kevin?
need a calculator. It's a big number.
I think Kevin's calculating it.
He is.
You'd need $1.5 million in the bank at 5% interest in order to make $75,000 a year. The reason that I love that number is for the last several years, I've received in 2014. Now I'm going to start back at the beginning. So in 2002, when we first opened the company, we shared profits. We opened in August, and we weren't profitable in August, September, or October, but in November we were profitable. And so November and December of 2002, I received my very first check was for a whopping $8. But it was still $8 that I didn't get from my previous company for doing the same things that I was doing here at Keller Williams. It then grew in 2004. I received $4,000 in profit share. I'm not going to read all of these to you, but in 2011, it grew to $22,677. And then I really started to get some traction in 15 was 68,000. And then in 2017 was 83,000. Last year I was at 87,000. So it grows over time, but you also have to be purposeful about it and continually, giving names to your team leader, et cetera. So the question is, right now I don't have an extra $1.5 million sitting in a bank account, and I'm certainly not going to find a bank that's going to pay me 5% interest. Yet I received $87,000 in profit share, and that's whether I chose to get out of bed or not. It's money that shows up in your bank account every single month. So what can you do with that? I mean, we've done a lot of different things with it. I mean, when you look, it's paid for some very fun vacations over the years. When we adopted my son, he was in a private school, and that helped with private school expenses. But also when the market was crashing, in 2009 and 2010, that extra money helped pay, I can remember paying for my expenses, some of my monthly expenses so that I could keep my business running. I've given a lot of money back to charity and helped people. I mean, it's for those of you who don't know me, I mean, don't call me. I probably shouldn't even say this, but there's very few things that I'll say no to if it's a good and charitable cause. So, and then just to give you a little bit of how it grows over time. There's 7 levels on a profit share tree. So if you just concentrate on your first level. So for example, if Chris and I were friends, and Chris and I had a great transaction together, and I introduced her to my team leader, and my team leader recruited Chris. Chris may then go, and Chris names me as her sponsor. Chris may then go and have a transaction or a relationship with Kevin and say, Kevin, you need to come talk to my team leader at Keller Williams. So if Kevin names Chris, Kevin is essentially in my second level. So you can go down 7 levels and in profit share, and you get paid on those. And it's but focus on your first level. And what we encourage the ALC and our investors and the top 20% of the agents in our market center to do is to get to 15 in your first level as quickly as possible. There's not a deadline, but get there as quickly as possible, because once you have 15 in your first line, over 5 years, you will be receiving $50,000. And that calculation's been done by so many different people. I mean, they've tried to, it just, any way you slice it or dice it, 15 people, first line, 5 years, you're going to be receiving $50,000 in passive income. And I just told you you're going to need $1.5 million in the bank. So what's $50,000? Probably at least $1 million. All of a sudden you're a millionaire if you've been responsible for referring, sorry, I always make that mistake, referring 15 people to your team leader. So, any questions?
Good stuff. I saw some wows in the chat box. I think we'd all like to get to $87,000 a year of passive income.
Yeah. And it didn't, it doesn't happen overnight. And I mean, I can still remember when we got that first check, mine was for $8. Sue Gleach's was for like $10 or $12. And Joanne Labuda's was for $6.50. And I mean, you would have thought that we had all hit the lottery. And now it's, checks can average, this is, because of COVID-19, our market centers have not been as profitable as they have been in the past, but there were my highest check ever was $13,465 in one given month. So it's again, it's some people are like, it's a myth. It's not a myth, and I'm just here to tell you that it's if you put your mind to it and you're passionate about it, and you decide that there are other people out there that you'd like to be in business with, then it's it's a great way to help with your family and or to help charities. So I ask our ALC every year when we talk about the piece on profit share, and they realize what that can bring in. And what I ask them is that we always ask them, are you committed to doing this? And the answer is, 99% of the time, the answer is yes. And the next thing that I ask them is, Chris, can I have your husband's contact information? Because if you don't stay on track to do this, I'm going to reach out to him and let him know that you're holding out from bringing an extra $50,000 to your family's bottom line per year. Are you okay with that?
Yes. I love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. The other, just to wrap up, I think there are just two things to do. I mean, you can keep it as simple as what I said in the beginning. I told my team leader how great you are, and she's going to be calling you. You owe it to yourself to take her phone call. But if you're having dialogue with people, just please, these are some things that I've seen and heard other agents do in the past, and please don't do these things. Never say anything negative about the current company that they're with. Please don't say anything negative about their broker, and don't say anything negative about what I or you think that they might be experiencing. You need to, focus on, what's important to them, dig down to, what it is that they need in their business, and that, and find that path to helping Keller Williams, get there. We also, what I like to do, when the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book came out, I used to give copies of that to agents that I wanted to be in business with. I'd put $1 in the bookmark. I try to, follow up. I mean, we give our clients gifts. Why not give it, another agent that you respect and you think could benefit from being in business with us? Why not give them a gift? So whether that's a book, or just taking them out to coffee and getting to know them better. And sometimes people say, well, I know you're recruiting me. And one of the biggest things that, that I always say is, I'll pay you $50 or $100 if anything comes up about Keller Williams. So, it's not about Keller Williams. It's getting to know them better. I have had 3 different success stories in the last year of agents who've joined our company that, I had been in dialogue with for many, many years. And they're just like, we know you want us to come be in business with you. And I said, so we know that. Yes, I do want to be in business with you. And all I'm asking is just to make sure that if there is a time at your company that something happens and you're unhappy, that I will be your first phone call. And they're like, great, I'll honor that. And all 3 of them, something happened. The copier broke, they ran out of paper, whatever. Their broker ticked them off, and they did end up calling, they said, we promised you that we'd call you, and so we're calling you. And it doesn't happen overnight. And that's the thing that gets frustrating. I mean, I may be talking to Chris for a very long time, yet Kevin has a better relationship with her, and Chris comes over and names Kevin. The thing that you have to look at when that happens is not to get mad about it, but just to say, you know what, that's great that Chris is here and that we're going to be in business together. And again, together, everyone achieves more, and it makes the market center more profitable.
I love it. It's so true. And some people are a little bit worried, like, why would I want more agents in the office? It's just going to be more competition, right? And that's really not the case. There's enough business for everyone. It's just how real estate is. And as the office grows, the profit grows, and then everyone's profit share gets larger and larger and larger. So we grow together. So it just kind of makes the world go round. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
So thank you, Brian. And Brian is going to stick with us for our panel now so that we can start learning about how to land listings in today's market. And Kevin Hart, which I know all of you know, is going to join that panel. Thank you, Kevin. And Kevin runs a large team. I don't know what your production is right off the bat, but I know you've done upwards of
72 million.
What is it?
72 million.
72 million.
That was a joke.
That's a 5-year goal. We'll get there. But he has done more than 25 million, and that's not too shabby. And I am going to turn it over to Kristen for just a second because I would love for her to introduce our special guest from New York City. And they have been friends for a long time. And Kristen, it's all yours.
So I would like to introduce Susan Little. She's with the Corcoran Group. We met in a restaurant. We were working together in that fancy fish restaurant in New York City. And we just hit it off and stayed friends ever since. And you went into real estate shortly after I think you left the fish restaurant.
I had one other restaurant job.
And then you went into real estate and you hit the ground running. And I've watched your success stories since the beginning. You grind like no one else. Your social media is on point. She has 2 littles, by the way, and a husband. You've been in the top sales club of the Corcoran Group. If anyone knows the Corcoran Group, Barbara Corcoran, Shark Tank, the Realogy brand. She's just amazing. Top 1,000 agents. She's amazing. That's Susan Little, New York City.
Wow. Well, that's a nice introduction. Thank you.
Cool. Well, we have a wonderful panel, and I sent them a few questions, and then overnight I had also posted to our closed group Facebook page to see if our agents had any other questions. So I might throw you for a loop with a couple of those, but I think you'll be okay on your toes. I have a good feeling. So why don't we start with the first question, and we'll go ladies first. So Susan can answer first, and it's just really the topic of today. In today's market, where are you getting most of your listings?
Referrals. Most of my business comes from referrals, personal referrals. I call them personal referrals because I guess they feel like my friends, but they're my clients that refer me. After my first year, I think about 90% of my business was a referral business. I don't cold call. I don't door knock. We don't do that here. You'll get kicked out of, you're not allowed to do that in buildings in New York City. But I would say 90% of my business comes from just the people that I've already worked with.
Sphere of influence. I love it. Brian, what about you?
Sphere of influence as well. We've been we were early adopters of Command. So we've been doing a lot with Command and opportunities in Command. We also have a person on our team who does all of our social media and marketing. So we're doing the marketing around our listings. So we're getting, I would say, better traction with that. We've also had, we've had several listing appointments this year from buyers that are looking for a specific area that we've done mailings into. The intention was to help the buyer find a home, but what we found was we were getting listing appointments because of those contacts.
That's fantastic. Kevin, what are you doing?
Our business this year is starting to turn around for the first time, which is good. We're starting to become more on our listings more from past clients. I'd still say we have a high percentage from, I do a lot of marketing with Zillow. And so I know it's a bad word sometimes within the community, but oftentimes people looking for a home oftentimes have a home to sell. So even though we're marketing towards buyers, we oftentimes will have a seller from that marketing as well. So we are getting sellers in from that as well. But so I'd say this year we're probably about a 60-40 ratio. 60% of our business is coming from past clients and 40% from new buyers that we are attracting.
I love it. So we have a very young office for Susan and Brian. So that Kevin, you already knew that. We have a very young office. The office has only been around for 3.5 years. So we've attracted a lot of newer agents, of course. So I imagine what's sitting in the back of their minds, and a couple of the questions that came through Facebook overnight is, so, okay, you all have this wonderful sphere of influence of all of these past clients, and now you're generating more business from that. How did you get there? How did you get that? How do you start?
If I can,
Go ahead.
sorry, Susan, just one thing that I've have made, the thing that I have lacked the most over the years is actually working my past clients in Sphere. You and I have talked about that, Chris. And so I would actually say in regards to new clients or newer agents, when I'm referring to flipping over in regards to flipping the switch in regards to the referrals, many of the referrals that I can attribute to have actually just been clients from this past year. That we've just done a great job with, that have referred us to their friends, family, or investors. So it's been kind of interesting how that has come to be. But in the past, I have not done a great job or as good of a job as I should have in regards to marketing to past clients. And with our new command, I will be doing a better job with that. But this year, a lot of our referrals are actually coming from new clients.
I love it. What about you, Susan?
When I first started, I didn't have any sphere of influence at all. I think I lied to my broker and, I don't know. I lied saying, oh yeah, I have all of this, or I should say I embellished, but all my friends and everybody I knew were waiters and actors. And so I just hustled really, really hard. And most of my business came from open houses. And I'm a very chatty person. And I think I just, I was very excited about real estate. And I still have that about me, that I'm always learning and learning and learning, reading. And, I watch a Tom Ferry video every morning. I mean, I'm just, my mind is always there. So much of my sphere comes from my own infectious love of it. And I think that sincerity sort of conveys, it sort of makes you an expert, because you know things that people don't know, and people love to talk about real estate. So if they're talking to you about real estate and you're very knowledgeable about your market, this is how conversations get started, and this is how you make connections. So I would say that if I had to say, the most in the beginning was open houses. I would work open houses for agents. I would pick up buyers. They would refer me to their friends. And then now those buyers years later are upgrading, and those are my sellers.
Brian, what about you?
Well, when I first got started, I was obviously young, but same thing, did a lot of open houses. The broker that I went to work for represented new construction, so I could do open houses on Thursday evenings, Saturdays, Sundays, because I wasn't dealing with the seller that was in the house. And so open houses were a big thing. I'm very social, so it would be rare for me to meet you and not, regardless of whether we were at a fundraiser or having lunch or something, that you wouldn't know that I was a realtor. And what does everybody want to talk about? Everybody always wants to talk about real estate. So, people don't like to talk about cars or used cars or life insurance. They want to talk about real estate. They love houses. They're fascinated by houses. So always just have that in your background. And even if you're getting started, I mean, I think one of the simple things that, you know, like if we have a new agent who joins our team, we ask them, you know, we want to download their database into Command so that we can market to that also. And it's, you know, the common answer is, well, I don't have a database. I don't know 100 people. Get your phone out. We all have iPhones, most of us, not all of us, or Androids, and go to your contacts and scroll all the way to the bottom. I guarantee you have at least 100 contacts in your phone. Those are the people that you're going to work with for starters, and then grow it from there. And constantly be asking, you know, Chris, who do you know? Who do you know might want to buy or sell real estate?
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay,
I'm almost to a point where everybody I know is a realtor now.
You need new friends, Kristen. Go get some new friends.
I love it. So what do you do to prepare for a listing presentation? We'll start, Kevin.
That's a good question. I don't do, I do have a listing presentation, but for the most part, I do a lot of ad lib. I guess when you've been in the business as long as you have, sometimes sitting down with just doing a formal presentation with every client, I look at every client as, because I do sell all over Central Ohio, so not every client is the same demographic, same personality that you're dealing with. So I pretty much prepare every client that I'm not going to give them, I may not give them a price that day when I go in. So because I don't want to put a preconceived notion in regards to my mind what the home is worth. So I tell them the first appointments for me to get to know them and get to know their home. And so that's really kind of what my first meeting is about. It's actually just finding out. Somebody may tell me that they have the most amazing finished basement, but when I get to their home, it's something that they did by themselves and it needs to be completely taken out and destroyed. So I've started taking just a different approach to things. So I don't always go in with it depends on the buyer that I may be, or the seller that I'm visiting. If it's a $1 million home, yeah, I may have something a little bit more formalized and I may have more comps prepared, but for the most part, I go in and do more ad lib.
What about you, Susan? Is it different in New York maybe? What do you do?
Well, you know, probably in a vertical market is a little bit different, but I actually specialize in South Brooklyn, which is houses, lots of houses. So I never enter anyone's home without comps and a pitch package. The pitch package is just about what I've sold in the area. You know, I tailor them to if I'm pitching a co-op, it's all my co-ops. If it's a house, it's all my houses. And I bring the comps, but I go through the comps myself because I know, I feel like it's my job to know what they don't know. I go through the comps myself and I handwrite notes on the comps because sometimes I feel like the comps can be a little overwhelming and it's just all this data that they're just like, they all look the same. So I use 2 highlighter pens and I highlight the things, the similarities and the differences. And, you know, I think it puts them in the frame of mind that I've already started working. Like, this is my job and I've already started working for you. So, you know, this little thing, even though it's handwritten, you know, to them, that's me digging in. This is how I dig in. And I usually try to go on Property Shark. I don't know if you have that there, but it's basically just, you know, all of the data about the building. And I usually try to find something about their home that they don't know, whether it's, you know, FAR. I don't know if you guys have that there. FAR, which is, it's in New York City, you can have buildable square footage that is allowed. And, you know, it has a very high monetary value. So if you have a 1,500 square foot house and you have 1,000 square feet of FAR, that means that you can add on to the house. And that's, you know, in New York, that's, if you can add on, that's, you know, very appealing to people. And that's part of the pitch, you know, these little things that they don't know. And so I think it puts them in the frame of mind that we're already working together.
I think that's awesome. I think maybe something that we have similar is like, you can find out what easements are on the property. You can find out.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. I do that too. Right. You know, sometimes I'll pull to see if there's any open permits. People are unaware of any of things like that. And it's of great service to them, because is sometimes if I look at it and I see that there may be some challenges in the sale, I'll go ahead and have one of my title people run title on it, and I'll bring that title with me and say, hey, just so you know, these things are going to have to be addressed before we can go to market. And, you know, that blows their mind.
Wow.
Because, you know, they had no idea. It's not uncommon.
Very interesting. Brian, what do you do to prep?
We start, I like systems. I'm not great at implementing them or creating them, but I like them. So we have a listing. We start with a listing presentation request, and these are on every person on the team. They're at their desk or by their phone. And it is obvious. I mean, it's paper right now. We may move to an online form at some point. But the request has the address for the comparative market analysis and the appointment, because sometimes it's not always where the seller is living. We get all the seller information. We want to know the lead source of where it came from, because we're going to be tracking that, and then the expectations, because that green sheet will work. It'll start with a notebook, and we have a pre-listing package prepared and sent out to the homeowner. We either do it courier or mail it, depending upon how much time we have between the appointments. And then we also have two levels of our pre-listing package. One is luxury, which is considered 600 and above in our market. We have more of it's like a very nice book. And then the pre-listing package for anything under 600 is, and we put them together here ourselves, but they're high quality. We've used Command to build both of those presentations, and we tell the seller that it's going to be coming out to them. We ask them to read it before we get there, because it answers a lot of the questions before we get there. Back when the market crashed in 2008, we had just adopted our son, and he was 5 years old. And we had a lot of clients that were very concerned about their property value and were calling and wanting to have appointments. And I had to adjust. I only had so many hours in the day. Our son was 5 years old, and I had made a commitment to drop him off at school and pick him up every day. So if it didn't happen between 8 and 3:30, it didn't happen. So I wasn't going to come and spend an hour sitting in your living room, and I wasn't going to come and have dinner at your house or be there after you were having dinner. And we still, we survived and thrived in this market. We just shifted and did things differently. We did a lot more. We spent a lot more time on the phone before I got there. And I got my appointment down so that I could get in and out in half an hour, because I had to accomplish a lot in a very short period of time. We also use from Bold. We make sure that on the back of this form, it doesn't have to be done at the first. And I'm happy to share this with Chris, and she can email it out to all of you. But it's 18 questions that we ask the seller before we get out there. And it starts with, do you plan on interviewing more than one agent? Tell me again where you're moving. How soon do you have to be there? What would happen if it doesn't sell? What do you owe? What's a price you wouldn't go below? And a lot of time when we first started using this, it wasn't easy for me. I'm a little bit of a high eye. I don't like to ask uncomfortable questions, but it also, I'm like, I still have to make a living and provide for my family, and I got to get this job done. So how am I going to do it and take care of our clients as well? So I was able to walk in there very prepared, and I'm a firm believer. And if you have a 3 o'clock appointment, then you better be there at 3 o'clock. So you can knock on the door and say, hi, Chris, I'm Brian Kemp. I'm here for our listing appointment at 3 o'clock. You can't say that when it's 3:05. So be there and be there on time. And I am not somebody who is an on-time person. But I do, for our listing appointments, I always make sure that I'm on time. And I use that, I'm like Kevin, I do a 2-step presentation. I use that first visit to get to know the client if I've not been there before and walk through the house. I have comparables with me and I've reviewed them before I've been there so that I can talk intelligently about it, but I don't go over an in-depth market analysis with them at that first visit. We do that at a second visit, either on Zoom or in person.
That sounds good. You touched a little bit on this, Brian, on how you juggle work and family or social life. Susan, how do you do that?
Oh, I don't. I mean,
That answer.
my husband's mad at me all the time. It's one of my goals this year, you know, is to, I on my business plan, and my goal of this year was to make 25% more income and 25% less output. So I'm working on that. Time management is an issue for me. I run myself ragged, and I by no means, I don't recommend it. You know, that whole work smarter, not work harder. I'm not a very smart worker. I'm one of those people that I just go and go and go and go. And, you know, the only good thing about this COVID thing, right, is that I was forced to stop for 3 months. And I'm like, okay, I need to introduce a little bit of this into my everyday life. Because, you know, you have to, the thing is that you have to have boundaries. And when you're working with people and you haven't set any boundaries, they'll just take and take and take from you. So it's best to have them. And I'm finally learning that it's best to have them from the beginning, to set some boundaries with your clients. Otherwise, you know, you're their therapist, you're their financial advisor, you know, they'll call you until 11 o'clock at night. And I really have to get away from that.
Understood. Kevin, do you set boundaries?
I thought you were going to ask if I have a life.
I know the answer to that.
I never really used to set boundaries, and I'd say the past 2 years I've set a lot more than I used to. If somebody would text me after 11 o'clock, I would respond. I've quit doing that. I've realized if you do it one time, then that now gives them the opportunity to, or the freedom to text you anytime if you respond at certain time periods. So I don't respond to text messages before 7 a.m. and I don't respond to text messages after 10 o'clock at night anymore. I used to. I mean, if a client would text me at 11:30 at night, I would text back. But I have, it's nothing that I've actually set in place to tell them that I'm not going to text at that time of night. But if they do text me, I no longer respond at that time. So those are more, outside that, I'm pretty much open from 7 to 10, I guess.
You have a long work day. So I have a friend in the industry, and I learned a lot from her. I'm not going to say I practice it as well as she does, but she's a very regimented person. She gets up at 4:30 every morning, and she goes and she works out, and she's on with her day, right? And she will share with her clients at a buyer presentation, listing presentation, first meeting, her schedule. She shares that, you know, I'm up at 4:30 every day. So by 8 o'clock in the evening, I turn my phone off because my mind is warped by then, right? I can't do anymore. So they just know it, and they don't, she's never had a problem with it. So I don't think she gets very many calls ever after 8 o'clock. So she has it figured out. I don't.
Yeah.
Chris, on my voicemail, it does state, it says if you've called after 7 p.m., your call will be returned on the next business day.
I love that. That's great.
And I think the other thing, sometimes we're our own worst enemies. And, you know, if we're negotiating and, you know, somebody's put a midnight deadline, I just ask, I'm like, I need an extension until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. I don't think it's not fair to your client. You know, a lot of times they're juggling family and getting kids to bed and everything else. And good decisions are not made after dark when people are tired. So don't put a deadline on a contract at midnight, and don't respond to one.
That's so smart. Sometimes we don't think of that when we're writing the contract.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good to be
And
conscious
don't
of that.
close on the last day of the month either. You do have that option to ask what date you close on. So
That's true. And we have our title agent on here. She would agree. Right, Celia? All right, I'm going to switch gears really quick and ask, can you really pick up listings from social media? And if so, how in the world do you do that?
yeah,
I do. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Susan. Go ahead.
You go, Susan. Tell.
I actually do pick up a lot of business. It's not the kind you might think. It's it's not like the guys from $1 Million Listing where people are like bidding on things they're putting on Instagram. But what I've done is I've people know me for the area that I specialize in, South Brooklyn, and I highlight that a lot in my social. And so I get referrals from agents in Manhattan that I have never met. And they just, because, I'm always like, I'm your girl for South Brooklyn, and over and over and over, and driving home the message, I have gotten multiple referrals from people in Jersey, people in Manhattan, and great, great listings. And then also I think that it does seep in just your presence and the way that you market yourself. And it really does go a long way in putting it into people's mind that you're the expert, because you keep showing them on social. So it's hard to quantify and follow, like, is it, but tons and tons of people that I know, they end up telling people about me, and maybe they haven't worked with me, but they think I'm an expert because I say I'm an expert. And I 100% believe it.
I also see your social media because I watch you. We're friends. You post a lot about restaurants. You post a lot about local small businesses.
Mm-hmm. The 70-30 rule, right? 70%, what is it? 70%, 70% lifestyle and helpful things, and only 30% listings, probably. I try to help people too. I try to answer questions people might have about the industry, because my husband's a home inspector. So I'll put things about home inspection, asbestos tile. What is it? What does it look like? What is it? What are the implications? Just things like that.
I love it. Brian, what do you think?
Campaigns through Facebook has been the best thing that's ever that's happened to us on a $1 per lead basis. So if you're not familiar with it, call Chris. Chris can hook you up. We have a regional tech person who will, she's running trainings all week long, every week. So get on there and try it out. Throw $50 at it and see what happens. We've had excellent results from that. And then we've also, the other thing through Command, I feel like I'm on a Command commercial, but we have, and I don't know if you have this same situation in your office, but I've, in the almost 18 years that I've been with Keller Williams, I've gone to a lot of trainings and built relationships with agents around the country that we refer business back and forth to. And we'll have agents in our office who will say, hey, who do you know in South Brooklyn? Well, I'm not going to say you call Susan, duh. But, with Command, you can go into the referral opportunities and find an agent who's got a business similar to you, because that's probably why that client is working with you. If you're on a team or you're a single agent, that client has, probably likes you and likes the way that you do your business. So why wouldn't you go and build your own relationship? You can do it with a couple of clicks of a button through the referral opportunities in Command, and find an agent in the city that your client's moving to, and you have the opportunity to, you can broadcast it and see who responds first. You can get the names and the contact information and pick up the phone. Maybe I'm going to call Susan and say, hey, Susan, I've got a buyer coming in, and they can only spend $500,000. I know that's probably low end for you in South Bronx, but
I do it all. No,
but I'm going to spend some time and get to know you before I place that referral. So do that for yourself. I mean, don't rely on who Kevin or Chris is going to tell you to. to use because that's their referral source. So if you send a referral to that person, you send a referral to Susan, Susan's probably going to say, well, hey, my original relationship was with Kristen. I'm still going to, if I've got business coming to Grove City or Columbus, I'm going to send it to Kristen, not to Kevin, who sent me this other referral. So go build your own referral base.
What is Command?
It's our one
CRM?
spot touch. It's our CRM. It's everything. You can do
Oh, okay.
marketing, listing presentations, contract to close. Yeah, it's super cool.
Oh, neat. Okay.
I think we have an opportunity, Chris, to show Susan Command later.
That's funny. Kevin, how are you using
Susan.
social media? Oh, I'm sorry, Kristen. What'd you say?
I said, I promise this wasn't a recruiting call for Susan. I'm working on Susan.
This is a referring opportunity. Did you not listen in the beginning?
No, I did. Yeah.
That's so funny. Kevin, how are you using social media?
Honestly, I have not been utilizing it as much this past year. Our business has picked up, and it's been the one area that I've actually had on my checkoff list to do more of. And I've been actually interviewing a couple people to actually help out on that front. So I can only wear so many hats. So I actually have not been utilizing it as much, but I have a couple auto posts that go on there, and friends with past clients, and I guess this past month, 2 different clients that sent me messages via Facebook that they want to list their homes. So that's it's more actually just putting the right things actually out on Facebook.
That makes sense. All right, we have just a few minutes left, so I'm going to ask one final question. What advice would you give to a newer agent that is looking to pick up either their first listing or second listing? What piece of advice would you leave them with?
Can I go first?
Yes.
If you don't have a pre-listing package, get it together and do it now. I've had one the entire time I've been in the business. I had been in the business for 6 months, and one of my best friends, his parents were moving out of town. His dad was the president of a bank here in Columbus, and they lived in a very expensive home. And his mother called. She'd known me for a couple of years, and she said, I'm calling to interview you, but I'm basically doing this as a favor to my son in his friendship with you, but I'm probably going to be selecting another realtor. And I thought, I have got to have my A game on. Knock on wood, I already had a pre-listing package, and I had that courier to their home, and it was between me and the top agent in Worthington, who had been licensed for many, many years. She had sold 75% of the homes in that neighborhood, and they chose me. And she said, you were much better prepared. You had a much better presentation. Your pre-listing presentation answered most of my questions before you ever even got here. So, don't wait until that phone call comes to say, I've got a listing appointment. Start doing it now. Get it together. When I first started, I didn't have much to put in it. Now it's like this big brag book of all the stuff that I've done over 31 years. But when I first put it together, I had to rely on my company. What has my company done? And you're with the largest real estate company in the world. So use the company statistics until you have your own to share, and then just continually keep it updated.
I love it. Brian, do you have a generic version of your pre-list that you would be willing to share?
It's on command.
Oh, you're using that. Perfect.
That's what we did. We just tweaked. I mean, we spent hours, changing graphics and things like that, but I'll share both of them with you. I mean, I can send them both. But it's, to the things that we changed. And I have a marketing person now, so she spent hours making me happy, but I didn't always have that. And it's, so.
Thank you. That's awesome. Kevin, what parting advice would you give?
Actually, what Brian had stated there, just in that pre-listing packet, I had hired somebody full-time to do marketing for me 2 years ago. She created a very nice pre-listing packet, but then over time I found a couple typos and agents changed and a few things, and then to get somebody to re-edit and redo that packet was just becoming too cumbersome. And so instead, actually, whenever command came out and the pre-listing packet, what I've done is actually I've gone through and I've just tweaked that by also changing some graphics, changing some wording, and slimmed it down a little bit, but then added a few more things that was important to me. So I use that with some clients. I've actually just got the bonding machine, so I've actually started using that as well. But the thing for me is just to make sure you're educated. You know, anytime I go out to meet any client, sometimes I may not necessarily take a packet or I may not hand them comps, but any question that they may have, I have studied that neighborhood. I'm a little different. I know a lot about a lot of different neighborhoods here in Columbus, and sometimes I don't even have to review anything. But if you are new, if you don't know a neighborhood, know that neighborhood before you step in that door, because the best thing you can have as your arsenal is knowledge. So if you've actually studied and you know everything about that neighborhood and the surrounding neighborhoods and the comps and how fast homes sell and why they're selling, that's your best attack method, my opinion.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Kevin. That's fantastic. Susan, what parting words would you share?
My first listings, I relied very heavily on the brand, because if you have no sphere of influence or you have no track record, you have to rely on what the brand has done, right? So I used Corcoran's brand and what we had done in the neighborhood, not just in my marketing, but in my pitches. And, you know, I would say we, and it worked. The way that I built up my website was I would work for agents who needed help. And I would say, you know, I'll do all of this for you for free, you know, as much as you need me to do, if you'll put me on the listing. So they would put me on the listing. So the listing would come up when somebody looked at me, it looked like I had listings, so that I didn't have an empty, you know, website. So I did that a lot. People were grateful for the help. Sometimes I would say, you know, I won't take the buyers from open house if you'll just put me on the listing. So, you know, it's nothing for them. They're the one that has the relationship with the seller. Every now and then they would say, you know, make me sign something that said, you know, you're not going to do any marketing. Like I wouldn't send out, you know, a postcard with this house on it and say, I sold this, but it was strictly for me to have, you know, listings on on Corcoran.com, and it really helped.
That's a great idea. You got your image out before you had the image.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Take it till you make it.
Love it, love it. Well, thank you, Kevin and Brian and Susan. This is invaluable for us. Cannot tell you how much I appreciate your time.
It's been very enlightening for us too. I know about profit share now.
That's right.
Thank you, Brian.
Over to you, Chris.
What's that, Brian?
I'll get my pre-list over to you.
Oh, thank you so much. That will be wonderful. Because next week I think we're talking about listing presentations. So that'll flow right into the topic.
Great.
I love it. Well, everyone have a fabulous afternoon.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Be safe out there. Bye-bye.
You.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Bye-bye.